Everything's so cute. Going to Oktoberfest in Munich has been on my bucket list for so long, and I finally got to go a few weeks ago. Even as someone who is not a big partier or beer drinker, I think it's an experience that everyone should have on their bucket list. It's seriously so much fun, and in today's video, I'm going to go over all the logistics for planning your October trip to make it as smooth as possible. So first, let's start with planning for it. The earlier, the better. We decided in June that we wanted to go, which for us is super far in advance, and there were barely any hotels left, so make the decision to go as early as possible. The festival typically lasts 3 weeks, so once you decide to go, I would start looking for a hotel and a flight as soon as possible. Compare all the dates during that 3-week period to help determine, when's the cheapest time to go. And of course, most likely you're gonna go on the weekend, so that really only leaves you with 3 choices. But by looking and comparing hotel and flight prices, that's what's gonna help you really make this decision. So just to give you a heads up, it's going to be so expensive, like insanely expensive. Just know that going in. I knew that it would be more expensive than usual, but I wasn't prepared for exactly how expensive everything would be. Just to give you some perspective, hostels are setting up tents and charging people hundreds of dollars a night to stay in a tent. So I'd highly recommend, if you're on a budget like me, to look outside of Munich in places that are still very well connected. For example, we actually stayed in Dachau, which is 30 minutes from Munich city center. It was so much more affordable compared to anything actually in Munich, and it was super easy to commute to and from. It was connected by the S2 metro, so we just hopped on there and rode that all the way to downtown Munich, 30 minutes, didn't have to change trains or anything. And we had a group of 7 people, so we had 2 hotel rooms, and each person paid $150 US dollars for the 2 nights. So yes, it's still expensive, but it was better than anything else that we found in Munich, like Munich city center. And our hotel was super, super nice. Shout out to Hotel Modi, highly, highly recommend. So take a look at some of the areas that are outside of Munich, check the hotel prices, use Google Maps transport directions to see how easy it'll be to get into and then come back from Munich city center in the festival, and let that help you make your decision. The festival is at St. Paul's Platz, so you can type in directions to there when you're kind of figuring all that out. Now for flights to get there, again, flying into Munich directly is going to be insanely expensive. So if you're looking for more affordable options, I recommend looking to fly into other nearby cities and taking a train or bus into Munich directly. For example, I was coming from London, so not far at all, only 2 hours, and it was going to be over £400 round trip to fly London to Munich, which is just insane. So I bought a flight to Vienna for only 40 bucks and took the train into Munich. And then to get home, we took the train up to Amsterdam and flew home back to London for only 50 bucks. So yes, this does require a lot more travel time, but it saved us over $200 per person to do this. So it was totally worth it to us. Of course, depending on what day you're looking and where you're going, prices will vary, but I personally would start by looking at flying into Austria first. Flights to Vienna will probably be the cheapest, but Salzburg and Innsbruck are a lot closer to Munich. Or look into flying somewhere else in Germany, like Frankfurt, and taking the train in from there. It's only about 3 hours. 4 of our friends who met us there took the train from Zurich, Switzerland, which is only about 3.5 hours as well, so totally doable, but just keep in mind that Switzerland trains are quite pricey. So just, take a look at all the nearby destinations, see what time and price combo makes the most sense for you. You do not need to book anything in advance for Oktoberfest itself. The festival is free to enter, and there is no need to pay to reserve a table in one of the tents. I'll explain more on that later. The only thing you'd have to book in advance for the festival itself is if you want to rent an outfit. So dressing up is part of the fun of Oktoberfest, and honestly, if you don't, you kind of stick out. So I highly recommend dressing up in the traditional Bavarian clothing. I had read so many blogs going into detail about what you should or shouldn't wear, so I was kind of scared. I didn't want my outfit to not be traditional or authentic or offend someone, but I can promise you after going, you're fine. Everyone dresses up. They all wear different kinds of outfits. Lots of them are kind of costumey looking, and I don't think anyone would be offended or call you out for not being authentic or traditional. For women, I would recommend trying to get a three-piece outfit with a white blouse, the dress that goes to your knees, and an apron on top. And for men, I recommend getting lederhosen or leather shorts with either a plain white button-up or a checkered button-up. Most people do like a blue and white checkered or a red and white. If you want to go the extra mile, you could get the suspender straps too to make it a little more traditional. I got my dress on Amazon for 50 pounds and I really loved it. It was the three pieces, just like the traditional clothing I just described, a white blouse, the dress, and then the apron on top, which apparently the way that you tie your apron in the traditional Bavarian culture shows your relationship status. So tying behind the back is a widow. On your front left means you're single, front right means you're married or in a relationship. No one actually stays true to that for the festival, but I did think it was interesting and fun to know. You also have the option to rent from a company in Munich, like I mentioned, and that will have to be done in advance. So yes, this will guarantee it's more traditional looking, but it will be more expensive, and most likely you'll need to rent it for 2 days because you'll need to pick it up Friday and drop it off Sunday. Even though you're only going to the festival for that Saturday, you won't have time to go pick it up Saturday morning before going to the festival. So just keep that in mind. Nick and his friend did rent, so I went with them to go pick up their stuff, and it took about 45 minutes of waiting in line, and they ran out of pretty much everything. So whatever you order and pay for isn't necessarily what you're gonna get. For example, our friend JR ordered brown shorts and got black capri pants that went like mid-calf, and then our other friend ordered a plain white button-up shirt and got a blue checkered one. So just be aware that you might not get what you ordered, and make sure to schedule enough time for pickup as well, because it did take quite a long time. I really would only utilize this option if you're on a longer European trip and don't have room to bring your own outfit, because it's just so much more expensive and takes so much more effort to go to the place, wait in line to pick it up and drop it off. Once everything is booked, you travel as normal, right? You take the flight and or train that you booked to get to Munich, and then once you're in Munich and need to get to your hotel, I highly recommend buying the public transport day group pass. It's 18 euros for the day, which includes unlimited travel on all public transportation for up to 5 people. So it's way cheaper than everyone buying their own tickets individually for individual journeys. So just have one responsible person hold on to it, that was me, and show the bus driver or if someone comes on the metro to check. It's just a paper ticket, so if you do lose it, you will have to buy another one. So after you get to your hotel and check in, you need to go to the ATM to get some cash. At Oktoberfest, they only accept cash, no cards at all. They do have a few ATMs around the fairgrounds, but it's better to just have cash before you go so you don't have to wait in lines or risk paying ATM fees, since they're just the individual ATM boxes. They're not, you know, an actual bank. I got mine from Deutsche Bank, I'm probably not saying that correctly, but put it on the screen, and I got no ATM fees for using my American debit card. And then if you rented an outfit, like I just talked about, you'll need to head to the shop and pick that up. Most close around 6 or 7 p.m., so be sure you do have enough time to do that. You'll need your reservation confirmation with the name in order to pick it up, but you shouldn't need ID or anything. So now what do you do on the day of? If you're going on a weekday, tents open at 10 a.m. and on the weekends, they open at 9 a.m. I know it sounds crazy, but you absolutely need to get there as soon as they open if you want to get a table in one of the main tents. Like I said earlier, you don't have to pay to reserve a table in advance. I personally think it's a waste of money. Just get there right when it opens and you'll be fine. We got there at 9:15 and there were no spots, like absolutely no spots at all in the Hofbrau tent, but we found a full empty table at the Augustiner Festhall tent, so we grabbed that and just kind of stayed there all day. Here's a guide to the different tents and their vibes. There are 14 large tents and about 20 smaller tents around the fairgrounds. Most of the large tents have at least 6,000 seats on the inside. I'm not going to go into detail about all the tents, you know, there's so many, but here's some info about some of the main ones. We'll start with the Augustiner Festhall tent. I'm not saying that correctly, but it's the tent that we were at all day. It's Munich's oldest brewery and by far the most traditional tent with, you know, wooden barrels and traditional music. It has a capacity of about 8,500 people, and this is the one, honestly, I originally wanted to go to since I traveled all the way to Munich for this experience. Everyone was so friendly, they had traditional music and chants. It made the atmosphere so special. And again, for someone who really isn't into partying, I wanted the traditional atmosphere and feeling, so I highly recommend this tent if you feel the same. Oktoberfest South is one of the most popular tents with a very young crowd and has a capacity of about 9,300 people. Hofbrau is the most popular tent for tourists, and some locals call it the American tent. Has more of a club atmosphere and has a capacity of about 10,000 people. This is the one I just mentioned, saying we got here at 9:15 and couldn't find one spot to sit down. So just know that's how crazy it gets and how full it gets. Lowenbrau is also very popular for tourists and offers more of a club atmosphere and English-speaking pub music at night with a capacity of about 8,400 people. So it's really a matter of personal preference for which tent you want to go in. I'm way more into the traditional vibes rather than, you know, just a party room in a tent nicknamed the American tent, because I came all the way to Germany to experience this, but some people absolutely love that club vibe, and so that's perfect for them. I think regardless though, no matter what tent you go into, you're gonna have fun. The atmosphere is so contagious. Once you pick a tent, you honestly have to stay there all day. In theory, it sounds like a fun idea to tent hop and experience the different vibes, but once the tents are full, they're full. They don't let anyone in. So if you have a table at a tent and then you leave, you're risking just being stuck outside and not getting into any other tents that day. Each tent pretty much serves the exact same food and drink, as you can see here. What varies is that each tent serves its own beer from its own brewery. And the beers start at about 6% alcohol, and some are even higher than that, so be careful. They will absolutely sneak up on you. The prices per tent vary slightly again, but they're all relatively the same. So in our tent, each liter of beer was $13.50. Pretzels were $6.80, and they are massive, so you can split them with a few people. And half a chicken was $14.50. Like I mentioned earlier, everything is cash. They do not accept card, and they try to not give you any change back. So if you order a beer for $13.50 and then you hand them a $15, they'll just take it and walk away. So if you can come with small bills, that would be best to avoid paying extra on every purchase that you make. And I don't know if this is true, but the guy sitting next to me had been living in Munich for a few years, and he said that the workers there are all contracted out. So any tips that they make are 100% theirs. They don't have to like split tips or anything. So they try to take as much as they can within reason, of course, since it's all going directly into their pocket. As the day goes on, obviously people are getting drunker and the party gets a little crazier, I'd say. By about 1, maybe 2 p.m., everyone is up and dancing, screaming the chants. You're allowed to stand on the benches to dance, but you cannot stand on the tables. There are people walking around with whistles, and as soon as someone stands on a table, they rush over and start blowing their whistle like all crazy. And if you seem too drunk or sloppy on the table, they will just kick you out of the tent completely, so be careful. At around 5 p.m., someone came and kicked everyone out of our section out of the tent because all of those tables were reserved from 5 to 11 p.m. So if you get there early enough and know that you want to stay there late, try to look at all the tables and see if they have any reserved papers taped on them for that evening. If they do, you can still sit there until someone comes and kicks you out around 5 p.m. We were fine with that since we had been drinking since 9 a.m. I didn't want to stay later, but if you do, make sure to find a table without the reserved paper. So after we got kicked out of the tent, we walked around the fairgrounds a little bit, and this is something that shocked me. It has family-friendly games and amusement park rides, tons of little food and souvenir shops, and just, you know, overall cute vibes. They also had these shops everywhere selling these gingerbread-looking heart-shaped cookies that people wear around their neck. I'm not even gonna attempt to say the name in German, but you know, here it is on the screen, which is German literally for gingerbread heart. I tried doing the research to figure out why people wear these around their necks or what the story is there, and couldn't really find anything. So if you do know the reason or the story behind it, please comment below because I'd love to know why. I always just pictured Oktoberfest as beer tents, so it was interesting to see the whole carnival vibe and families outside of the tents. Tents close at 11:30 p.m., so just know that's as late as you can stay. I had read online that anyone who looks like they're under 25 in the tents will be ID'd, so we all brought our passports, but no one ever even tried to ID us, so I'm not sure if you really need to bring your passport and risk losing it. Maybe just a standard ID or license from back home will suffice in case anyone asks you for your ID. which I really doubt, but just to be safe. Like I said earlier, I am not a partier at all. I never drink beer and I really don't even like it. So if I'm saying it's an absolute must add to your bucket list, it shows truly how fun it is. The atmosphere is contagious. Everyone is so friendly. They just want to drink and have fun. Everyone's just smiling and cheersing each other, making friends, singing songs out loud. Like my personal favorite, Ein Prosit, which means a toast in English. Experience like no other, and I can't recommend it enough. Weekend trips like these are one of the many reasons why I decided to leave the US and move to Europe. So now let's take a look at other reasons why I decided to move here.